Island Lake Campground is located in Michigan's Upper Peninsula, north of Steuben, off of Island Lake Road. The campground feels more remote and offers a more secluded camping situation and is nestled just to the north of this small 32-acre lake. This is a national forest campground and offers only 11 sites for $22 a night, and there is a group site option for 16 people that is $50 a night. You pay at the pay station when you first come in, but before you pay and register, you'll want to make sure that there are sites available since there are so few sites here at this campground. There are 2 loops to the campground with sites 1 through 8 being to the left and the remaining sites and boat launch to the right when you pull in. We're going to take a look at the sites here, and you can see the very first site we come up to, site number 8, is a fairly deep, secluded site. You cannot see other campers from this campsite, which is true for most of the sites here in the campground. These sites are well suited for small campers and travel trailers, and the ground is fairly level, which would accommodate tent campers as well. Most of the sites are lakeside, and most of them have a small footpath that leads down to the lake for anglers or people who just want to go down and enjoy the view. You could probably drag a canoe or kayak from your site to the lake. However, in most areas this is not ideal due to the overgrowth of brush down by the lake edge. Here we're checking out site number 10. Again, nice and deep, very secluded feeling. This campground is not very popular for use, so you are likely to have plenty of privacy and very little noise from campers. You have a single outhouse that you can use on each loop, which is not overly convenient, and they are actually porta potty styles. They're not your typical wooden erected porta potties, and we're going to take a look at what the old-fashioned outhouse style looked like before they upgraded to the porta potty. You can see there wasn't necessarily a ton of privacy. It wasn't anything super great, but this is what we had before the porta potties were installed. So worst case scenario, it's still there, but it's definitely not recommended for use. And here we are going to take a look at the large group site that accommodates 16 people. This is a really large area. You could probably rent this out for a couple large travel trailers or fifth wheels. However, it's intended for a group site, maybe for the scouts or something similar, large fishing group. Very large area here, also pretty secluded off the path from the other campers. Here we have another large site. We'll walk back and take a look at this one. Even for the group sites on the large site, you still only get 1 fire ring and 1 picnic table. We have another wooden outhouse here. This one is not porta potty style. Another very large campsite area. You can see it's pretty much divided in 2. You could definitely back in 2 large fifth wheels to this location. We have the hand pump water, which is available here, and a little billboard with your typical postings. Nothing super exciting. Site number 7, very deep. You could back way up in there and fit several more vehicles in front of you. It looks like at one point this campground had multiple other sites. There are several areas like this where perhaps they had intended to, or at one point they did build other campsites, and they either closed them down due to lack of use, or they closed them down maybe to create more privacy. Just a short walk down this little 2-track and you come to a circle drive where you can bring your canoes or kayaks down to launch them out into the lake easily. This is not considered a boat launch. You cannot back a boat and trailer down here. It's been closed off from that. However, like I said, it is easy access for bringing a canoe and kayak down here to put it into the water, or maybe even just pulling down and having a little picnic down by the water's edge. You'll see here where there was probably a boat launch at one point and it's been closed off. They put some large stones there to prevent its continued use. My guess would be erosion and people getting stuck down here. at the water's edge with their trailers. While I'm down here, I'm going to launch the drone and we'll take a quick look at the lake from the air. It's also worth mentioning that from the campground you can hop right onto the ORV trail system, and it's perfectly acceptable here to drive your ORVs through the campground to access the trail system, which is a good warning to people that you may actually have some ORV noise here. While I was visiting, there was none, and there was only one camper in the entire campground, but that doesn't mean that on a busy weekend this campground will not fill up with ORV riders. Island Lake is not a huge lake, only 32.5 acres. However, you can see how it gets its name for having that nice little island right out in the middle of the lake.